you tell me about working in the mill?
When I first started working, I first started working on a reel where I took the threads from the bobbin and put it on a reel to use the yarn for cleaning the machinery. That's what I did to start with. And then they give me a job learning to operate the winders. And my sister Maddie Watley now, she taught me how to run the winders.
When was
I was 16.
Okay. Just started. I was 16.
And I'm 74 now, so.
Oh, that's 16, 20, I'm 74, so it's 26.
No, I'm sorry, I just turned 75. I will Sunday.
Then it was 1932.
Well, okay.
Okay. Okay, when you're ready, Jamie.
And you want me to mention that about when I started work in 1932? Right. I started to work in 1932, operating a reel where I took the thread.
I'm sorry, let's start again and tell me how old you are when you said that, when you were in 1932. Okay?
I started working at 16 years old in 1932, and I was operating a reel that I could take the waste from the bobbin, the thread from the bobbin, and put it on a reel with. And that's that's all there was to that.
Okay, now okay, start all over.
Now how did I start?
I was 16.
And call my name. Mm-hmm. Would you say my name?
Sure.
Rainwater. Mm-hmm. Mildred Rainwater started working at East Union Mills in 1932. I was 16 years old, and I operated a reel. And you took the thread from the bobbin and put it on this wheel, and it made a waste to clean machinery with. And then after I ran that a while, they give me a little promotion to running winders, and my sister Maddie Rainwater taught me how to operate the winders. And that was to put yarn thread from a bobbin onto a cone, onto a cone. And then when the cone, we measured the cone, and when the cone got the measure that we wanted it, well, we just took it off the machine, and they call that dolphin. And then I helped her. You want to know what I made? Mm-hmm. They started me off at $6.55 a week per week for 6 days a week. Well, I say 5 full days, and then till 11 o'clock on Saturdays. And after I learned to operate that winder, they had me to go on to another winder machine by myself, and operate it just by myself. And we had knotters to put on our hands that we tied the knots with from the bobbin to the cone. We tied knots on that and filled the cone. When it was filled, we doffed it off and set it on top of the machine.
Was it hard work?
Well, no, it was not hard work. It was steady work, but not really hard. They expected us to make production, or you might call it. They had a certain amount that they wanted out, so we had to work hard for that. But it was not, what you'd call real heavy. It was not heavy work. It was just continuous, continually operating the machine.
Well, they had a box to pack all this stuff in, and they gave you a check a little check, we call it a little piece of paper anyway, to know how many of them boxes she had to get out. And at the end of the day, well, she had to give the checks to them to show she got production.
What about you?
Well, I was kind of fancy. I tied a weaver's knot. It wouldn't slip.
How old were you when you started? Tell us about that.
Well, I was 14.
When was that?
What year?
I couldn't tell you the year.
How old are you now?
84.
So that's 14.
I went to work when I was
14
14.
from 84.
Oh, I don't
70 years, isn't it?
How much did you get paid?
know. Huh?
How much did you get paid?
I guess I got about the same thing she did.
How much is that?
About $6, maybe a week. I don't know.
$6.55 was the amount that we got
But they
started.
put our money in a little envelope. We didn't get a check like they pay off now. They put the money in a little small
Cash money.
envelope, put your name on it and how much you had in there, and sealed it up.
Do you have any of those envelopes now?
No.
Now, when did you get a lot more money?
Well,
How
that
many
was-
years did you have to work?
I worked till I got married, then I moved to Grantville, and
Well, that was
we
how many?
left Grantville and went to LaGrange when they had the strike. We went to work down there.
But he wanted to know
Okay. Oh,
My family? Well,
how many
only-
children?
Mhm.
Yes.
My mother had 11 children, 5 boys and 6 girls. And she always had to bring our lunch to work at dinner time, you know. She had to fix everything for our dinner. And we had an hour off for lunch. Then we had to
what
go
would she
back.
pack? What would tell us what she'd pack for lunch?
You mean pack for dinner? Well, it's just a regular meal that she would cook, just
Put it
vegetables.
in jars.
And she'd put it in a jar and bring bowls, you know, for us to, each one to have a bowl and a spoon. And she'd have our bread, and she'd bring it in a market basket, you know. And then we'd get over there and we'd divide it up between us and sit there and eat it.
And be hot in there in the
Yeah, it was hot
summertime.
in the summertime, and in the wintertime it was cold. I worked many a day with my coat on for Newnan Mills. It was so cold. And so finally they changed over, you know, they got better windows. They used to raise them up, but they got better windows and then got better heat. And so we just
Enjoyed it.
enjoyed our work then, but I worked a many a day with my coat on to try to keep warm. And everybody else did too.
Well, now, tell us about your family and working in the mills. How many of them worked in the mills?
Well, when we first moved here, we moved here in 1917. And my daddy and not my oldest brother, but next to the oldest brother, they came and got a job. And we lived at Tallapoosa, Georgia. And they came and got a job and went to work themselves. And so we moved here on a train. We brought out a cow, and Mama had all of us kids except my brother. You know, he was at home. They came and worked, and we moved on a train. Brought the cow and all the furniture and everything on a train. So they parked the train over there on a switch track until we could get our furniture out. And so we didn't have a house vacant for us when we moved here, so there was another family moved in with us. So we all had to move in one house together. We put furniture under the house and in the house, and all of us kids, so you can imagine what we had. So finally, Mr. Wood, he got a vacant house for us, so we moved in a house by ourselves. And so we went to work. I got it. Well, Maddie and Mildred, no, Mildred wasn't working.
We went to school a little while.
Well, I know we went to school, and then you went to work first, and then my sister, older than me, she got a job, and then I wanted to work. So they let me go before the principal of the school, and he let me read a little bit in a book, and he said, well, you can read real good, said you can go to work. So Mom and Daddy give up for me to go to work. So I worked learned to run fly frames in the card room. And it wasn't too hard. We'd get our job started, and it would off about every 4 hours. And we'd have to go and take off, all the flyers off the frames, and then doff it off and put it in a box, and then put new spindles on and bobbins on, and start it back up. And it would creel about twice a day, so we had a real good job then. And we could just sit around and let it run, keep the ends going.
Well, now, when did that job change so you had to work harder?
Well, it changed over in 1960. I think Mount Vernon bought over.
But before then, it didn't speed up, that you recall?
No, it didn't speed up while Union Mill was there. But after Mount Vernon, West Point came here in 1960, but Mount Vernon bought over before. But it began to speed up a little bit with them, and then West Point came in, and so it speeded up a good bit. It was heavier work. We did yarn for carpets, and so we had to stay on our feet to keep the jobs going.
Okay,
but I enjoyed working for them. They were good to us.
Well, you didn't know any better, did you?
No.
It's the only place you'd ever been.
And I worked in the same plant of East Union plant. I worked there for 50 years. Of course, different companies, but I worked in that plant for 50 years. And I retired in 75.
Could you tell us about what happened in 1933 when Roosevelt came in? Do you remember that?
About when now?
When President Roosevelt came in. There was anything?
Well,
Proud of that.
he was president, and then that's when we, got shorter hours and more pay. And it made us all happy. Everybody loved President Roosevelt for that.
Could you tell us how the hours changed and how your pay changed?
Well, for Union Mills, we usually made about $11.55 a week. But then after Mount Vernon came in, we got minimum wage.
But I mean, when Roosevelt came in, you got more money and
Yeah,
shorter hours. Tell about
Yeah,
that.
we got more
Minimum wage.
money. Then we went on minimum wage then. It was about $3.35, I guess, an hour. And
You recall what happened when Roosevelt came in?
Me?
Yes.
Well, I remember we were proud that we'd getting more money and shorter hours. We were proud of that.
Well, now, in 1934, there was a big strike all the way through textiles. Do any of the three of you have any idea why that strike happened?
I think the union came in and was wanting everybody to join the union. And some believed in the union and some didn't. And so then the ones that was having, was against it, well, they were striking. And so they're the one that caused the trouble, I think. The one that wanted the union to come in. But we didn't join the union because we didn't believe in it, and so we didn't join it.
Did you know anybody who was in the union?
Well, no, not particular. Only I did hear a girl say that Jesse Bowie, he joined the union, and he lost his job for joining the union. He lost his job from East Union Mill.
I imagine that all of them that joined the union lost the job.
Have you heard any talk about that since?
No, not that I remember. They didn't. I know the people that was, striking. They came in on a truck, and they had to have the National Guards to come down so we could go into work at that time.
Did you see the National Guard here?
Yes, I saw them. A few that came out at East Newnan.
Could you describe that?
Well, no, not particularly. I know they came in and stood around the gate lot, for us to go in. But I think there were more action up at the old mill than it was out at East Newnan.
Do either of the other ladies remember anything about the National Guard? Did you see them around town or anything?
I don't remember it. I just know
can't
that
remember
they were there, but I didn't
except
see them.
We went to work in LaGrange, and the National Guards. They guarded this building so we could go inside and get a job. And after we all got a job, they had to leave.
But now you went over to LaGrange during the strike to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
Could you just say that for me?
I went to LaGrange, Georgia, while the strike was going on.
And?
We got a job and had on working 8 hours a day.
About the National Guard, so.
Huh?
Don't you want her to say something about the National Guards?
Well, all I could tell you is
down there.
They just walked around with a gun.
Till you got in there.
Did you see any machine guns around there?
Well, I won't say. I don't believe so.
I'm not sure they were ever over.
No,
I don't believe
not
there's any
sure.
machine guns.
I don't remember any myself. They had just guns with them, individuals.
But you see, LaGrange was a bigger town. And they had more action.
Now we have some film of some textile workers coming. They call them the Flying Squadron. That came here to try to shut down the Noonan mills. They came from Hogansville and LaGrange and a couple of other places, and we're going to put that on the TV in just a moment, and ask you to see if you could recognize any of the people. All right? So Jamie, let's cut just a moment. I'll move.
Try.
It'll be up in just a moment. Does that
We
look like?
remember the truck coming in like that by East Newnan plant.
Now this is in Fort McPherson.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recognize any of these
No,
girls?
I don't know those.
Mr. Zimmerman is somewhere in here. Maybe you could spot him. Where is that? Do you know?
No, I don't know where that would be, unless it's up here at the old mill. That wasn't at East Newnan.
You recognize this?
Is that Roy Calhoun with the coat on?
No, I don't remember that place at all. We were young, and our mother wouldn't let us get out too much to mix with them.
Did you know any people who were in the National Guard?
No.
Not me.
Yeah, this is at Fort Mac again.
Who's that crippled fella? Y'all know him?
Do you remember reading anything about this at the time?
Well, I remember all about it when it happened, but I don't remember what I read. I can't remember.
What did people think about it?
Well, they were all upset about it.
Do you know anything?
They was afraid we would all lose our jobs if we had anything to do with it.
Know any of those young ladies?
And that's one I thought Etta Mae was on. Did she think that? Did she?
show you where she thought she was, or her sister. Her eyesight is so bad now she couldn't tell, but her sister spotted her. I'll show you. They said that this girl was her, Etta Mae. You can watch her
The
now
third
when she,
one.
as she comes through, the dark-haired one.
From the left is her.
Yeah.
Is that
That's
look?
her.
Yeah, that's her. That's one I recognized the other day. One of them being her.
Tell me who you recognize. You want to reach over and point to the screen?
I thought maybe that was her, but you say that is. It
Uh-huh.
might look more like her than that middle one. I think that's the one I thought was Etta Mae. But that does look more like her there.
Do you recognize anybody else?
I can't remember
I
any of them.
don't.
A lot of those were from Hogansville, I think. I don't remember them.
Now we're back to men.
I didn't really know them.
Well, thinking back again, when all of this was happening, could you tell us what kind of talk went around about it?
Well, there's a lot of people that didn't want the strike because we all needed work so badly till we was afraid if we got into that, we would lose our job completely. So our parents wouldn't let us get into it.
What about the local paper and the local church and the Chamber of Commerce, that kind of thing?
I really don't think they were for it either. It's best I can remember.
Here they're getting.
You know of any of those, Maudine?
No, I don't know any of those.
We didn't know too many people at Hogansville, except the ones that moved from East Union down there, and that was the Zimmermans.
Well, now, the Zimmermans sisters thought that a lot of these people came up from LaGrange. So
They
you might
probably
look at
did.
these
They were
and,
kind of mixed up, I
Yeah.
think, from LaGrange and Hogansville.
so you might be able to recognize some of these girls here, for example. Okay, just one, if you can.
Just very few people that we knew that in Hogansville and LaGrange. We just knew a few around Union, that was all.
Well, why did you have to go to LaGrange to get work?
You had to go to the.
There's
I
more
used to
plants,
know
I
what
guess.
you call that, but it was a building where just had you going up to a window and ask for a job, and they would give you the job or say yes or no one. But it was a nice building, office building. But I can't remember. It had a name, but I can't remember.
Employment office or something like that?
No, it wasn't like that. It was, I'd say it wasn't a Beto office, but it had some kind of name. But when you got a job, they said we'd have to be though. That meant we'd have to work hard.
And make a certain amount.
But we got a job and worked.
Do you remember the